You know, they found a terrorist, and I don't mean they found him at the border. They were all, whoa, this is a terrorist. No. They found him at the border, and then he was allowed to roam free within the borders of the United States of America for a year before they finally tracked him down again. You might have been pumping gas at the gas station right next to somebody who would like to chop your head off on video. And so that stuff happens, and it makes people look around and say, oh my gosh, how could that happen? How could they not catch him? When we look at what's happening overseas right now, well, why are we not keeping Iran in check? Oh, China's going crazy. Why aren't we keeping China in check? People look around and they ask, why isn't the government doing something? Why isn't the Biden administration doing something? Why aren't they attacking? We have enemies here on our southern border and enemies on there and enemies there. Why aren't they attacking our enemies? Well, they are. Except you think you have different enemies than they do. You see, you are correct in who the enemies of America truly are. But for the people who run the government, president, FBI, DHS, CIA, the people who run the national security apparatus of America, the reason they're not interested in terrorists on the southern border is, to them, the terrorist is you.
From a terrorism perspective, I think domestic violent extremism is one of the greatest terrorism-related threats that we face.
In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
Why didn't the FBI track down a terrorist, a dangerous terrorist who was roaming here for a year? Well, the FBI, they only have so much time. They only have so much manpower. They have to tackle the true terrorists of this nation, at least in their eyes, terrorists who pray outside of abortion clinics. Those people, 50 to 70, arrested, convicted, facing up to 11 years in federal prison. The federal government that allows terrorists to roam free. They allow Antifa, Black Lives Matter, street animals to loot, burn, shoot in this country, cities like Seattle and others. They actually are paying millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter street animals. Yet here in the United States of America, it is pro-lifers who read Bible verses and sing worship songs who are hunted down by the FBI like Paul Vaughn was here in this video.
But if you're not going to let me, then I'll just...
No, I want to know why you were banging on my door with a gun. You're not going to tell me anything?
No, do not. I tried.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You did not try. Can I have your name? You're not going to give me your name? You're not going to give me any information?
Pretty sobering view of where we are as a nation, no? Joining me now, she's been all over this story, Margaret Olohan. She is senior reporter for the Great Daily Signal. Okay, Mary, before we get to Paul Vaughn and the evil demons in the Justice Department, what is the FACE Act anyway? What is this weird thing? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, the FACE Act is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, and it's a 1994 piece of legislation that allegedly is supposed to protect both abortion clinics, pregnancy centers, and Catholic churches. And the point of it is that you're not supposed to obstruct someone from trying to get an abortion, but you're also not supposed to harm a Catholic church or pregnancy center in an effort to criticize them for being pro-life. Well, the Department of Justice has only used the FACE Act to prosecute pro-lifers. We've seen, maybe I could count on one hand the amount of times they've used the FACE Act to prosecute pro-abortion vandals. And since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, we've seen hundreds of attacks on Catholic churches and pregnancy centers that have gone really unprosecuted by the Department of Justice. Meanwhile, we have incidents like the one you just showed, where pro-life fathers, particularly of big families, multiple instances of pro-life fathers from big families being arrested by President Joe Biden's FBI and DOJ for their pro-life work in front of abortion clinics.
Mary, I don't need a specific number, but 1994 was quite a while ago, about 30 years if my math is correct on that. How many times was the FACE Act used for any reason against any side prior to Roe v. Wade? Was it a lot? Was it a little?
I don't have exact numbers, but I can tell you that during the Obama administration, from my review of the DOJ's data on this, the Obama administration used the FACE Act on a number of occasions to prosecute pro-lifers who had behaved violently towards abortion clinics. But since the Dobbs leak and since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, we've seen Kristen Clarke, the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, I believe, at the Department of Justice. Kristen Clarke, who, by the way, is pro-abortion openly and has said that pregnancy centers are harming women. Kristen Clarke has used the FACE Act to prosecute over 26 pro-life individuals just in 2022. In 2023, there were a whole bunch more, and now we are seeing yesterday that 6 pro-life activists were found guilty by a jury of violating the Freedom of Access to Abortion Clinic Entrances, or the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. And, you know, Mark Houck is the father of 7 kids who we interviewed. He was arrested at gunpoint in front of his family for his pro-life work. Paul Vaughn, who is one of the pro-life activists found guilty by the jury yesterday, happens to be the father of 11 kids, and he also was arrested in front of his family for his pro-life work. And the Biden administration has been very open about the fact that this is a response to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. You can look at their press releases. They literally say, we are going to use the FACE Act to prosecute pro-lifers as a response to Roe. And they have been doing it, and they've been doing it a lot.
I just want everyone to digest what Mary just said there. In response to a Supreme Court decision the president didn't like, they sent the DOJ after their political opponents. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew what kind of country you live in now. Okay, Kristen Clarke. From what I understand, she was appointed by Joe Biden. From my very 30,000-foot understanding of her, she's dedicated her entire adult life to various communist causes, from illegal immigration to racial politics to everything. This woman is, well, is she alone in the DOJ, or are there a lot of her?
So she's heading the Civil Rights Division, and she specifically is the one that, you know, you look at these DOJ releases on the FACE Act prosecutions, and it will say that Kristen Clarke led this investigation, that Kristen Clarke is quoted in the press release talking about what an important case it was. In the example of Paul Vaughn and these other pro-life activists that were charged with violating the FACE Act, Kristen Clarke is heralding it as this amazing investigation into a horrific thing that these anti-abortion zealots were doing at this abortion clinic. Well, if you watch the video, Jesse, you'll see that these guys were sitting in the hallway outside of an abortion clinic. They were praying and singing and asking women not to abort their baby. Now, you know, the FACE Act does say that you are not allowed to obstruct a woman from getting an abortion. However, you know, we have these people, you can see what they're doing. They're praying, they're singing, they're sitting out in the hall outside of an abortion clinic. So it does kind of make you scratch your head and say, is that worthy of 11 years in prison, which is what they're now facing, these parents, pro-life activists, religious Americans who believe that abortion is murder. So, you know, I've spoken to some of the people that were at the courthouse yesterday. I've spoken to Paul, and a lot of these pro-lifers are saying, we don't understand. We believe that abortion is murder. And these people are going into the abortion clinic to murder their baby. And yet the Department of Justice is saying, oh, you that prayed outside the abortion clinic, you're the one that's going to go to jail for 11 years.
Mary, you're the one who's been doing the reporting on this. I certainly have not. You've been talking to these people, as you just pointed out. How are they handling all this? It's not every day you wake up at the age of 73 and you're facing 11 years in the clink. Are they holding up?
Well, I spoke with Paul Vaughn last night, and he seemed to be holding up well. I've heard from a lot of these pro-life activists, and they are a very prayerful bunch. And I don't mean that facetiously. They legitimately are very trusting in God that he's going to take care of them throughout this ordeal. I've seen a lot of their messages to each other. They're praying for each other. They're supporting. They'll quote passages from the Bible and Psalms. They just are very convicted that God cares about these pro-life activists that are undergoing this trial and that God's going to take care of them. And it's frankly very impressive to see their trust.
How about that? Mary, thank you. Stay on this. We'll have you back. I appreciate you very much. How about that?